We are live in vivo. Familia FFB podcast. Familia, we're returning to, we're going to work in some live streams here and there. I know we're doing the NFL Insider Series and those are pre-recorded, but you know what? When I had the opportunity to get a great guest on, an invitada de lujo, I had to make sure to make it a live stream because she's live all the time. So this is nice and easy. So I wanted to make sure, first off, Familia, you're following us on YouTube. Make sure of that. If you haven't done on there, go to that little subscribe button, click on it, give me the thumbs up. Tell us if you throw in a comment. If you throw in a comment in here, we'll make sure to answer it on the show. So please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. And also, I want to make sure that when you go to underdogfantasy.com, you use the promo code Familia23. Get you're up to the first $100. We're going to match you an additional $100. Underdog Fantasy is going to match you, and you're going to play best ball all the way through. You can do any sport. You could do best ball drafts are already starting for NBA. You could do best ball live drafts for MLB for daily. You could do and football drafts are happening. They've been happening since the Super Bowl, essentially, Familia, and they're going to happen all the way to kickoff when the Lions and the Chiefs happen. So make sure, again, Familia 23 or Familia 23 if you want to do it in Spanish. So make sure you're putting in that promo code. Also, Familia, I want to just welcome in our guest, Britt Flinn. I mean, I was on a live stream with her a few weeks ago. And it was just it was such a great time, and I had to say please come along with us. And I mean, you know her from so many different places. She's on the Lightning Round, she's on Fantasy Alarm, she's on Better Sports Network. I mean, and she's also the host of the Herstory in the Making series, which is really awesome. You know me, I'm a girl dad. I love to shine a spotlight on women who are just kicking butt in that boys world. So just a great content creator. And there's some people out there who are asking for her to sing at Canton at the Fantasy Football Expo. So we'll see if that's going to happen. So I'm going to welcome in un gran bienvenido, Britt Flinn. Britt, welcome. Bienvenido. Estás en tu casa.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You said that you had to say please, please, please. I think that you only had to say pl. And then I was like, yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. So I'm so happy to be here. And as far as the singing, we turned a dive bar into a karaoke bar at the FSGA in Cleveland this past week. So I don't think it'll be that hard to get me to sing.
What did you grace everybody with?
There were like 10 people in this dive bar, and they had a Touch Tunes thing, and had a couple beers, and it was me and Howard Bender and Coop and Will Ty from Better Fantasy. And I was like, should I do this? You know what? I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see if they respond. They loved it. Everybody started playing songs, and we just all started singing. It was a great time. So you won't have to twist my arm if you want to hear me sing again.
Oh, any particular favorites that you busted out?
I think that I did Alone by Heart. I did Someone Like You by Adele. I think I did I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. I was just all over the place. I was in my bag when it came to like the divas and the songstress people.
You did not choose easy songs.
I was feeling it, and it was just coming out. It doesn't always work that way, but that night it did. So, and then I think we changed up and did Creep by Radiohead on top of it.
I just heard that on the radio, and that's such an incredible song. I love that song. Oh man, that's a great. So you did that as a group?
No, we were just the four of us sitting at a table, and the rest of the people were at the bar. And I was like, I'm hijacking this jukebox, and I'm just gonna keep singing and being obnoxious. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, I'll stop and leave the bar in shame.
Well, Jose's Landing is calling everybody's name for Sunday night at the Fantasy Football Expo. I want to say a quick hello to a couple of our guests. Dame Overboard. Yes, it is a wonderful Wednesday. Welcome back. Welcome back. I know you got. I know last year when I took a little break from live streams and I saw you guys at the LA Live Draft. You said, "Are you bringing back the live stream?" So this one's dedicated to you guys. Also, Mr. Scamper's in the house. By the way, he and I are drafting in the same Scott Fishbowl 13 division, so it's gonna be good times.
How is Mr. Scamper's going to draft with pause?
Oh,
How are we going to figure this out?
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Mr. Scampers is just gonna be. Oh, it's gonna be so good. So it's gonna be. We're in the Pinks division at the Scott Fishbowl LA Live Draft. So it's gonna be. That's a great group. I mean, gosh, Maddie Kroll is in that group. Kendall Valenzuela, Sam Holt.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of ladies from the herstory in the making. Troy King's coming out from the East Coast. Dr. Kev Murray, Laquan Jones. I mean, and Mr. Scampers. So I mean, you could tell that's not gonna be an easy group to come out of the playoffs.
That's going to be insane. Make sure to take lots of videos because that's going to be not only a very difficult group, but a very, very fun group to draft with as well.
Oh, it's going to be a blast. I picked that group. I mean, I got friends throughout that group, but man, it's great. And the Mr. Scampers did that. So, and I'm got the 101. So not gonna be easy times for me. So
especially with the scoring.
He took the.
What are we going to do with that scoring?
Well, that's the thing. What Scott made it so tempting. Yeah, you're. By the way, Mr. Scampers, yes, you're going to be sniping me every other round. So thank you for that. And I know you will because you're going to use everything I talk about on against me. So, but yeah, it's going to be tough because I mean I love the scoring, but I got to go quarterback. I can't go. I'm as much as Scott is making it enticing to go Travis Kelce, I can't pass one of those stud quarterbacks.
Not when you're in the 1-1. I don't think when you're in the 1-1 you can, but it's definitely going to like sit in the back of your brain and just like tug at like your gut and your heart and be like, what should I do? What should I do? I know what logically I should do, but man, could this work? Could this crazy strategy work?
Oh, and it could. I hate to be chasing quarterbacks in Scott Fishbowl. Oh man. I mean, I got lucky where my second quarter last year I was at the 101 as well. And so I did it for good luck and I grabbed Josh Allen and I got lucky on grabbing Trevor Lawrence in the 4th round. But that I was really white knuckling it because the quarterbacks were gone by the time it came to that turn. So to pass up on go Kelce and pass up on him, it's gonna be too hard. Where are you picking?
I'm picking at the 108. I really like being in the middle, especially with 3rd round reversal. It terrifies me to get stuck. And then I'm just watching all my favorite players go. And then I kind of go into full on panic mode. So the first year I picked at the 7, last year I picked at the 6. And this year I'm like, I'm going to pick at the 8. I'm going to just stick in that middle and we're going to see how it goes because I can't wait 24 picks in between picks. It would just drive me crazy. Also, I'm too impatient. I can't wait.
Oh, well, actually I did. The other reason I wanted to do that because I could talk trash to all the friends, as I wait for my turn to pick. So, I don't want to, I want to be able to have some fun at their expense, maybe have a beer,
Yeah, absolutely.
Between, are you doing a live draft or are you, which one?
So I'm drafting at home. I'm very kind of homebody-ish. So I don't like to travel too much, especially with the dogs and the cats and the husband, and there's not a lot of options near Arkansas that you can go and live draft. So I'm going to slow draft it, but very excited to still see everybody in Canton at the expo.
Yeah, that's gonna be great times. That's gonna be great times. And I love the how the Women of Fantasy has really taken off. Your herstory has you're hosting that and doing so many great interviews. Familia, if you haven't, go to that Fantasy Alarm YouTube page and you're going to find it there. It's phenomenal. You know, I mentioned being a girl dad, how it's important. How great has it been for you to highlight so many great female voices that are happening, that are creating content and just becoming pillars of this fantasy industry?
It's honestly awesome. And not just because I get to highlight and showcase all of these other women, because as we know, there aren't that many women in the fantasy football space unless, and they're the big names and then they're kind of the rest of us. And you don't really hear about the rest of us. So it's so cool to give them a platform and let them talk about their process, how they got started. And for two, it's also very validating to realize that we've kind of all had the same struggles that we don't necessarily talk about out in the open and out in public. And it's interesting and very motivating to hear how they deal with those different obstacles. And I try to take something away every single time from every interview, just a little piece of advice on how to deal with either my own brain or some extraneous troll out in the Twitterverse. And it's just really been awesome to build this sub family of women in the fantasy football community.
It kind of, does it kind of give you a little extra armor against those trolls that come out?
Absolutely. I'm like, I used to always, man, I remember the first time, I think it was after I did one of my very first start set shows with Kevin and Gary Haddow, and it was Calm Before the Storm, which we were doing kind of as an offshoot of Lightning Round. And I had given somebody advice and it did not work out. And then they posted on Twitter and they're like, my team taking Britt's advice. And it was a golf cart just sinking into quicksand on a golf course. And I remember calling my mom and I was just crying. And I was like, I'm not cut out to do this. I can't handle this pressure. Like, I'm not good enough. People are losing because of me, blah, 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 blah. Went into this whole anxiety spiral. And for a little bit, I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I don't know if I can do this. And hearing that so many other women and just people in general struggle with that as well, has really kind of helped me deal with my anxiety and back off of it. And whenever I start to feel like that, just remember, hey, it's not just you. You're not the only one dealing with this. There's always going to be trolls. There's always going to be people out there. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep putting in the work. And if everybody was right, then we would all be millionaires. So we're not going to get everything right 100% of the time. Just have a good process and be able to back up your takes. And that's what it is.
And honestly, if we hit, 60% of the time on a lot of times, especially on the bets, you're making great money. You're doing great out there. So, and you know what? I think it's kind of, I was just on a show with Bob Harris and we were talking about that. And I use the blackjack analogy. It's just kind of like staying within your, staying true to your process. And you're going to, don't deviate. And you're gonna be right way more often than you're wrong. So that's what helps. That's what helps. And gosh, I know the trolls sting, but because you want to be right all the time. But I still get enough people thanking me.
It's that perfection syndrome that I think a lot of us have, and that's why we're in this industry, to be honest. We just want to make everybody like us and we want to be perfect. And you just have to realize that we're not going to be perfect all the time.
Oh man, just want to throw a couple of comments out there. Dame, yes, I am glad that we know our draft spots this year. Last year we had to compete for our draft spots, so that was pretty funny. We did all sorts of, had to play pinball, shoot pool, bowl, and it was all at the Trophy Smack headquarters. It was pretty. I don't know how they get anything done, but and yes, Mr. Scampers, there will be beer. There will be beer. I actually owe Sam Holt a beer because I lost a bet to her last year, so gladly going to pay up. And one, Herms, mi amigo. Oh,
love
yes.
you, Herms.
Much love for Herms. Much love for Herms. When I saw him last year at the expo, I was worried I was going to crush his ribs when I gave him a hug. So, but it was so good, so good. Thank you guys for joining us, everybody. And Britt, what was it for you? I mean, you talked about kind of like the early thing, but what was the inspiration to get started?
So The funny thing is, I never really thought that this could be a career or even something that I could do even for fun. Um, I have always loved football. Even when I got involved in my first fantasy football league, it was my husband's cousin's league, and they had a very last minute person who backed out. It was $100 buy-in. I was bartending pretty much like 60 hours a week at the time. And I was like, yeah, I've got money. Let's do this. And so I sat down like 5 minutes before the draft and I was like, wait, I guess there has to be strategy to this, right? And so my husband's telling me, like, yeah, you take running backs, which is funny when you look at my Anchor running back article that we're going to talk about later, because this is how much the landscape has changed. But at that point in time, it was like, yeah, you take running backs because of positional scarcity. And then you want to take this and da 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 da. And I was like, okay, yeah, I've got it. Like, you don't have to tell me anything else. And about through 4 rounds, I just went off the rails and I'm like, I like this guy. I like this guy. I'm taking this guy. And I ended up making the finals. And I think that the only reason that I didn't actually win was because I took Tony Romo as my quarterback. And that was the year that he got injured in like week 15 or 16.
Oh,
And at that point, the waiver wires had completely dried up. There was just nobody out there that I could pick up. And it really sucked. But everybody thought that he had drafted my team for me and had made it to the finals for me. And I was like, well, if he drafted my team, why isn't he in the playoffs? Why isn't he in the finals? I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? And so after that, I just kind of started following people on Twitter and kind of shouting into the void. And Ryan Hallam from Fighting Chance and Fantasy Alarm kind of reached out to me. And I was like, who's this guy? How did he find me? And we started talking a little bit about how passionate I was for football and how knowledgeable I was. And he said, do you write? And I was like, oh, yeah, I can write a lot. And he's like, okay, well, write me all the fantasy relevant matchups for week 14. I ended up sending him like a 20 or 30,000 word article on
oh my.
every single, like, and he goes, oh, yeah, you can write. And then he got me connected with Fighting Chance Fantasy. Later on, I got the customer service job with Fantasy Alarm, and then Howard Bender found the stuff that I'd written with Fighting Chance, and was like, "I really love your voice. I'd like you to come on and write some stuff for us." And it's just kind of evolved from there. I never really thought that this would be something that I would be doing at all, let alone full time. I still pinch myself almost every day and I'm like, am I dreaming? What's going on here? But it's so much fun to be able to write about something that you're passionate about every single day and just hang out and have fun with your friends while you're working.
And you know what, and that's one of those things. It's like, it becomes really living that dream where you're just kind of like, yeah, you're doing something you absolutely love that you would do for free, and thankfully you don't have to do it for free. So that's just, oh, love the story. And I love that you made the finals. I always love it when women kick butt. I mean, and one of your recent guests, Gemma Martinez, I got asked to join an experts league for NFL fantasy in Espanol, and Gemma took the league. She took the experts league, and I was like, if it wasn't gonna be me, Gemma.
She's amazing. I
Yeah.
was so absolutely impressed with her. I only got to meet her very briefly at the expo, but having her on the show and talking about, especially because there is a little bit of a language barrier and a cultural barrier living in Mexico. And the fact that she still crushed the way that she did, I'm just like, I'm even that much more impressed by your knowledge and the way that you can adapt to everything and still beat out all the boys.
Oh yeah. She kicked our butts. I played the everybody on my team got hurt card. So, but hey, you know what? That's what happens. That's what happens. But no, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun playing that league. So I actually want to switch places with you right now. Let me see if I get, because I want to see top right corner. Yeah, I didn't want it to get blocked off there. Prince holds a very special place in my heart. So when I saw that, I had to ask you about it. What made you fall in love with Prince, and maybe couple favorite album, favorite song? Is that a couple of favorite songs?
Yeah, so I was kind of sheltered as a kid
Mm.
when it came to music. We My parents kind of listened to the same thing over and over and over again. They had their same music on rotation all the time, and Prince wasn't a part of that. But I remember seeing him for the first time on PBS, and it was right after he changed his name to a symbol. And at the time, I didn't really understand what that meant. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of weird." But like he looks cool and he sounds cool. And then as I got older and realized the reason that he did that, it just gave me that much more admiration for him because he was one of the very first artists who took control of his music, of his masters from the label and did it in his own way. Um, he started writing music at 7. I think he wrote his first song at 7. And I used to write music, not any good music like him, but I would write little songs and sing them around the house. I think my parents have a VHS of me like making Halloween songs and Thanksgiving songs. And, so just somebody who was that in tune with music as a kid. Um, I think he was also one of the biggest androgynous icons. We kind of touched on it before the show. He could steal your girl wearing lipstick and platforms, and you couldn't even be mad about it. I mean, he was just an icon. Obviously, Purple Rain, Little Red Corvette. I love Nothing Compares to You, and I don't
Ooh.
think that everybody really knows that he wrote that song. Just the fact that he wrote so many songs that he couldn't even put them all on albums, that he was such a prolific writer that he just had to give these away and collaborate with everybody else. And I remember the day that he passed, um, we were going to an Humphreys McGee concert in Tulsa. And I was very sick. I just got home from the doctor. And so I laid down on the couch and put on CNN and saw that he had passed. And I was like, okay, we're still going to this concert. Like, I'm not contagious. And we went, and Humphreys covered Purple Rain and this big jam band. So they did like a 20-minute version of Purple Rain. And it was just the most magical and respectable tribute to this wonderful man who has made his mark on rock and roll and on the music community in general.
Oh man, it's you're just bringing back all the feels. Have you ever gotten? Did you ever get the chance to see him live?
I didn't. I
Oh,
didn't.
well, let me tell you some. When he played, I saw him 3 times. Once in the late '80s on the Love Sexy tour, and then twice more in the 2000s. And let me tell you, when he played Purple Rain, I remember one time in the 2004 he played Purple Rain, and it was probably like a 12, maybe 15-minute version of it. And I just said, I went with a buddy because actually my wife was pregnant at the time, and I went with a buddy who's a huge Purple Rain, huge Prince fan, biggest Prince fan I know. And I told him, I said, if he would have played Purple Rain and just done that version of Purple Rain and walked off stage, I'd have felt like I got my money's worth. Just that would have been worth $100 by itself. And luckily he played for like 3 hours, and it's just,
Oh my gosh.
oh man. And he did a tour out here in LA, where he played Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 7 weeks. And he like dropped the prices. That same buddy and I, we went, this was like 2010, 2011. And he just, and it was 3.5 hours. Shaka Khan came out and played, Sheila E. I mean, all these people would come out and play. And they called it 21 nights. And he would play every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for like 3.5 hours every night. And it was just blew the doors off the forum. And just a spectacular performer. Gosh, I mean, you're right. I mean, mascara, lipstick, and takes your girl, and you're like, hey, that's all good. That's all good. But yeah, and one thing. Are you at all a Stevie Nicks or Fleetwood Mac fan?
Oh yes. Yes.
So I went and saw Stevie Nicks with Billy Joel a couple months ago. Absolutely fantastic show. And same friend, I talked to him the next day. He also went to the show, and this was at SoFi Stadium. So they do more than play football there. And the song "Stand Back," Prince totally redid the synthesizers on that. for as a favor to Stevie Nicks because she loved Little Red Corvette. And she had the song, and she just said, I don't know if I could get there yet with this song. And he totally redid the synthesizers at the beginning. So, oh man,
Yes, he made such a mark all over the place, and I'm getting chills. Like just the hairs on my arms are standing up right now because he had such a reach in the music community that we don't even know. We don't even realize how broad his reach was, and everybody loved him. And another thing, I think that he was so humble. Obviously, I never met
yeah.
him in person, but from what I've heard is that he was just so humble and so willing to help everybody else. I mean, he's just an icon.
Just an icon. And you know what? Underrated, great basketball player too. I don't know if you've heard
Really?
do you ever watch the old school Dave Chappelle show?
Yeah, but I guess I don't remember that skit.
So they did a skit where Prince came in and challenged Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy, and their crew to a basketball game, and Prince and all of his crew they were there, but Prince was like in his heels and everything, and they played basketball, and he just rolled them. It just rolled them. It was, oh man,
I'm
it's
looking that
only
up
him.
after the show
Yeah,
immediately.
you gotta find it. Oh, it's classic. It's classic. So, oh man, I'm already having a great time on this one. We could keep going on Prince. What one song that doesn't get a lot of play on, and you mentioned Purple Rain. One of my favorites, Little Red Corvette. I just love the synthesizer on it. One that doesn't get a lot, and I wish I never heard him play it live, and I really wish I had. From Sign of the Times album, I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man. I just love the guitar on that one. It's just, oh, R.I.P. Prince. Thank you for giving us that music. Thank you for giving us that music. But Britt, let's talk some football right now. Let's talk a little
Yeah.
running back strategy, and I want to actually give you a chance to kind of promote what you got coming out, because I think it's fortuitous timing that we did this show. We call this episode Anchors Away Running Back Strategy. I'm going to give you the floor to introduce this next section and promote what you got coming up.
Yeah, so we released the fantasy football draft guide at Fantasy Alarm last Thursday. It's what we call a living draft guide. So it's not like a magazine, it's not like fixed articles. If anything changes, we're going to go back and update it. So any kind of offseason news, any kind of injury things, any kind of movement, or just news in general, we're going to go change that. And as part of that today, I dropped my anchor running back strategy, which, as I kind of touched on in the beginning, when I very first drafted my team, it was like running back, running back, running back. But I don't think that that's always the case anymore, because that's not the way that the game is played. So I feel like it's very important to evolve and adapt to different strategies. And anchor running back is one of my favorites to go with in this day and age of the NFL. So did a lot of data entry on Excel to get these numbers and hone in everything. And yeah, I think it just confirmed my bias that anchor running back is the way to go.
And it is crazy because, like, we did an underdog draft where we met, and I, 14 of the first 24 picks are wide receivers now. So it's over. I think it may have overcorrected a little bit, but really it's just showing that those anchors, those bell cows, the lead caballos, as I like to call them here on Familia FFB, those are the ones that really make a difference. So, and I'm a fan of this strategy. So my a big question that I have is, when you're doing an anchor running back, what's the latest round that you're comfortable taking a running back?
So it used to be round two, like mid round two, but as you just mentioned, in underdog and the way that things are falling and just the inflated ADPs of all these wide receivers, I'm kind of comfortable taking them into the mid to late third rounds. Not necessarily all of them. It all depends on value, and if somebody, depends on who you're drafting with. If they are the robust running back drafters and there's not a lot of value there, then I'm not exactly feeling the best about it. So I try to get them in the first two rounds, but if I'm feeling crazy, I'll wait till the late third and I can still get some value in here and there.
You know what's funny? Recently, probably about a week and a half ago, Mauricio Gutierrez, Hema's husband, he and I did a mock draft for the Stather Fantasy podcast, and we talked. We did a mock draft. We went 3 rounds, and so we went more zero RB, but our anchors, we ended up. I really liked the team that we had because we had. I mean, we ended up with wide receivers. Our first 3 picks were Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, and Jalen Waddle, which I was just like. And
Perfect.
then yeah, I think our running backs ended up being. I mean, I think our anchor may have been Rashad White or Aaron Jones. I think it was one of those guys. And we got Alvin Kamara, and we got a lot of value later. But I love this strategy because if you go running back, I actually did that in an underdog draft because a second, I think I started Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor was just too sexy to pass up there, but it felt weird. It felt weird to start that way. I mean, have you started running back on any of your drafts, and it feels
It does look weird, especially when you're looking at the board because it's all color coded and you're like, which one of these things is not like the others? And then it's like, it's my team. And it feels like you're losing out on so much value as you're just watching those wide receivers drop and drop and drop. But I will say, if you do enough underdog drafts, that it is important to do different builds and to not always subscribe to the same build because then you don't get any exposure to different players. And you can kind of, if one of your players that you're, 40% exposed to gets injured, then your entire underdog situation is basically done for, especially in those early rounds. So it is important to experiment a little bit with different builds, but it does feel weird, especially in an underdog situation where you start 3 wide receivers and
yeah.
only 2 running backs. And that's why I think they're going so fast in underdog because you do have to play that additional wide receiver spot.
Yeah, I love that. That is really really important. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up about the third wide receiver because I think that's why amigo of the show Joe Dolan loves to say that underdog is drunk with wide receivers right now, which I think is pretty appropriate. But yeah, I mean so true, so true. Now, but I think the interesting thing is you got to be comfortable with who your RB2 is going to be because you're going to wait a while. Is there like a certain number of rounds that you're going to wait before you're filling that RB2 role?
Yeah, so I did in this article, I'm not going to give everything away, but
Yeah.
I did a bunch of underdog drafts and I did an early pick build, a middle pick build, and a late pick build. So my early pick was at the 104, my mid was at the 108, and my late was at the 111. I think the earliest that I drafted an RB2 was in that late pick build with DeAndre Swift. Um,
Oh,
I He fell all the way to round 7. And although I don't necessarily feel like the most comfortable with him in Philadelphia and with his injury history, in round 9, I ended up getting Antonio Gibson. In round 11, I got Jamal Williams. And then I got Jerome Ford and Dwayne McBride, who can both have roles
yeah.
as handcuffs and or just secondary goal line backs. So I felt pretty comfortable with that. Um, and that's the trick to there is an art to anchor running back. You really have to know um, in a PPR league, is this guy your pass catching back? Is this guy going to get goal line work? Is this guy going to be a high upside handcuff if one of your other guys goes down? So you really have to do some research before you go into this build. You can't just draft according to ADP and just willy nilly and um, kind of who's there. But I've gotten some pretty good value. I think in the middle build, I got David Montgomery in the 8th, Antonio Gibson in the 9th, Jerick McKinnon in the 11th, and Jeff Wilson in the 15th. I mean, come on. And then my early build was actually probably my least favorite. And that's the one where I took Eckler at the 4. I got James Cook in the 8th, Samaje Perine in the 9th, Devon A-Chain in the 11th. And then I went Gus Edwards and Chase Brown in the 16th and 17th. But I still feel like they all have so much upside. And the thing with the RB2 position is that with as many teams run committees in their running back room. The difference in the RB13 and the RB24 in PPR leagues was like 35 points. There was not a big difference in 12
Wow.
spots. So you can afford to wait on those positions as long as you fill out the rest of your roster, especially in best ball, with those high upside, either pass catching backs, goal line backs, or handcuff backs.
Yeah, 35 points. It's 2 points a week.
Yeah, it
That's
was
really,
is negligible.
yeah, that's 20 yards.
Yep.
So, no, that's that. I love that. I love that. Well, so what I did was what I did for this show just to kind of prepare. I did our top ten running backs for on underdog drafts, and just to get an idea who how comfortable there is, and they all have question marks along with them, and even starting at the RB1, going number 4.2 overall, CMC Christian McCaffrey. He's 27 now. People are starting to make a big deal, even though he had over 300. I think he had 329 touches last year. Now the big question with him is, yes, he had the healthy season, but how comfortable are you grabbing him in a range where Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, those guys are all going?
I think I'm still comfortable with CMC, especially if I'm in a PPR league or a half PPR league, because I think he was only second to Austin Eckler in targets last year. When he moved to San Francisco, they actually did incorporate more of a committee approach with him, which we didn't really notice because Elijah Mitchell got hurt. And then it just kind of became the CMC show. But when Mitchell was healthy, they were really using like a 60-40 split, a 55-45 split, but they were still giving him those valuable targets. So I still feel pretty good about CMC. He's also running behind the best line that he's ever run behind in his entire career. So I feel pretty good about him. And as the final cherry on top, San Francisco has one of the easiest schedules in the entire NFL. So I think that the game script is going to be in their favor, and he's going to get quite a few touches.
Yeah, I mean, for a running back in the NFC West, 6 games against you got the Seahawks who did not have a good run defense. The Rams and the Cardinals are both revamping their defense and the defenses, and that's 6 games right there. That's a third of the schedule. So I love that. I love that idea, and plus he's still such a force in the passing game. Gosh, I mean, you mentioned it. All those targets. I mean, just a marvelous player. I'm looking up how many targets he had last year. It was 108 targets, 85 total receptions. So just a spectacular player. And I know the Elijah Mitchell worry is there, but he's going to get his. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that I forgot to mention is that CMC had 38 red zone carries. So one of the highest rates in the league. So even if he doesn't get those passes, he's gonna, the Debo role no longer exists. So we don't have to worry about Debo. All of those touches that Debo got 2 years ago, they all belong to McCaffrey now.
Yeah, I mean, it might get some, but yeah, I totally agree with that one. Totally agree with that one. It's him. So the next one is Austin Eckler. We put him on you one of your favorites, and going at the 8.8 a lot of drafts. And so when you told me he was one of your favorites, my daughter whipped up a thumbnail with Austin Eckler strumming his air guitar, and it's awesome. So at the 8.8, I actually had the question the other day. And just to get some diversity, because I hadn't had a lot of Eckler drafts, I took him over Travis Kelce and Bijan Robinson. It was about pick number 8 or 9. I love this range for him. But you got Kellen Moore coming in. We saw what he did with Tony Pollard, but now with the added Quentin Johnston, any little worries that these other guys are going to snipe him a little?
I'm not worried about anybody else currently on the team. What I'm worried about is one of these free agent running backs still lurking out there. Leonard Fournette's name has been thrown around a lot. And, Eckler's never been a between the tackles guy. He's never had 1,000-yard rushing season. He's always been a pass catching guy and a touchdown guy. So if they do end up signing another back who's in free agency right now, that worries me a little bit. But Kellen Moore did a great job with Zeke and Pollard both last year. Pollard got quite a few targets, ran outside where he excelled in space, and Zeke ran between the tackles and got the touchdowns. Now, does that mean that Eckler is possibly in line for a little bit of touchdown regression? Probably. But I think in a PPR or even a half PPR format, those targets are going to sustain him.
Yeah, I think so. I can't see him going under I mean, when he had everybody available to him, and when I'm saying he, I'm sorry, Justin Herbert had all of Keenan Allen was healthy, Mike Williams was healthy, both in 2021. Eckler still had 70 receptions. So he's going to be a force. I think they use him just right. And he's hungry because this is the last year of his contract. So he wants to I don't blame him. He wants to keep making money. And I love that they're using him so much as a weapon, because I think that very much like that Alvin Kamara, it's kind of the new age running back. And those guys, I think, last a little bit longer because they don't take the big hits, because they're taking those passes. So Eckler may be one of my favorite ones on this list because of where he's going. Just quick shout out to J-Wall, amigo J-Wall. Hope life is good in Big D. So hope life is good in Big D, mi amigo. Sending big hugs. You know what? Let's check in our third running back. And this one's interesting because going off as the number 10, so right behind Austin Eckler, going off as the RB3, Bijan Robinson, the rookie, going off as the pick number 10. You're a Cowboy fan, so you saw Ezekiel Elliott come in and just absolutely destroy the league coming in as a rookie. I think we're having those expectations of Bijan Robinson. A comfort level with him taking him there, even though he's a rookie.
I think it's a great position for him and a great spot. And where we see rookie wide receivers kind of take some time to acclimate to the system, they need to learn where their placement is, running their routes, where the quarterback's going to throw them the ball. The running backs don't necessarily have to do that. They have a much more limited playbook that they have to understand. Bijan can already line up all over the field. He's already great at pass blocking, which, as we've seen, is very important if you're going to be on the field. And they wouldn't have taken him with the 8th overall if they were not going to utilize him heavily. I think he's also in a very pretty anemic division. So he should be able to just kind of run all over him. I don't want to set a ceiling for him because the NFL is different from the college level, but I still think he's going to get the target share or the volume, the carry volume, and probably the target share, that he's going to have a very high ceiling.
Yeah, I know. Just sneak preview, Familia. I haven't released it yet, but I already did the interview for the Atlanta Falcons for a beat writer, and definitely sees them using him a lot as a weapon, more than a dual purpose weapon with a lot of plenty of pass catching. So we could be looking at 300 total touches, including the receptions, and I'll take my chances with this kid. I like him at that point. The one thing, it's like the receivers are still interesting at that point, and you get CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, those guys. So you definitely have to make a decision. So it's pretty. But I still love them, because one of the things that we know about running backs, if they're going to be great, they're going to be great from the beginning. It's very rare that they're not great from the beginning, and the people who watch a lot of film have said this guy's one of the best running backs of the last 10 years. So we'll see. So the next one, interesting, because I think what's happening with him is a little bit what happened with Christian McCaffrey the past couple of years. He got injured, and all of a sudden he goes backward. And he was the 101 pick last year, universal 101. Now he's going off pick 16, 17, Jonathan Taylor, going to the Colts. Not practicing yet in minicamp, but expected to be healthy. what have you had to make the decision on him in the second round, and which way have you gone?
So I'm actually a little bit out on Jonathan Taylor at his ADP. He's one of these few top 10 running backs that I'm hesitant on at his ADP. And that's only because they brought in Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. We know that Shane Steichen really wants his quarterback to run. He wants to utilize the RPO. And as athletic as Anthony Richardson is, he's going to take off. If there's an RPO, he's just going to keep the ball himself and not worry about handing it off. We kind of saw in Philadelphia as well with Jalen Hurts, those running backs when Steichen was there didn't get a ton of work and they kind of fell off. Miles Sanders, yes, he had a decent season last year, but it wasn't worth that second round pick. It's not that I dislike Jonathan Taylor, but I don't like where he's going at ADP. I think he would be better suited to fall to like an early third round pick. And then I would feel a lot more comfortable with where he's going.
So yeah, so if you went wide receiver in the first round and you're staring at him, or have you passed him for the most part?
Yeah, I don't think I have any Jonathan Taylor shares, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Which is probably it's do as I say, not as I do, because I did talk about diversifying and that whole situation, but I haven't found myself in a spot where he's still available, mercifully, so I don't have to make that decision. But just looking at the optics of everything, I would like his ADP to fall just a little bit more before I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I look at him, and I don't know. I don't know if his ADP falls anymore.
I don't think it will. That's the problem.
Yeah. It's well, because yeah, I think some people are going to be like, hey, you know what? He was hurt last year. He's still 24. One thing I do like, he is playing for his next contract, and so that. But I think you're right. He might get sniped on some goal line carries because Anthony Richardson is just a monster, and it's probably easy for him to just reach over the line a la Trevor Lawrence. He's almost as tall as Trevor Lawrence, but might be easier that way. And I'll feel a lot better about drafting him when I see him participating in training camp and showing that he's 100% healthy, because I always worry about guys when they're coming off an injury, especially one guy who's not in the top 10, who we may talk about later. But one guy who's not coming off an injury, but Nick Chubb, over 300 carries, going right behind Jonathan Taylor. Now, have you, given the previous scenario that I talked, you went wide receiver. Could you go Nick Chubb over Jonathan Taylor, and have you done that?
Absolutely. I think in the actual one that I did in the Anchor running back article for Fantasy Alarm, I went CeeDee Lamb at the 111, and then I took Nick Chubb at the 214, because I just like that situation for him better, especially with Kareem Hunt out of the picture. In the beginning of Nick Chubb's career, everyone's like, oh, he can't catch passes. He can't do this. No, I watched him at Georgia. This kid can do everything. And for a running back who has that many carries over and over and over every season, he's fairly durable. And until he drops off or shows any signs of decline, I'm still fully in on him. And I think that with another year of Deshaun Watson kind of learning the Cleveland system, I think that opens up the run game even more. Last year with Jacoby Brissett, they were like, we're just going to stack the box and make, Brissett throw it. I don't think that's going to be the case this season. And I think Chubb's going to have a lot larger lanes to bust through and do those explosive runs that are so fun to watch. And hopefully we don't see him go down on the 1 yard line to end the game this year. And
oh, painful. I had him in a league that luckily it didn't cost me a win because we were winning comfortably, but that costs a lot of people victories. And it's just, oh yeah, you hate it when the smart football play gets in the way of fantasy football, because it's just like, oh, you understand it both sides. And just quick self promo, Emmett Golden from ESPN Cleveland, we sat down, and that show dropped earlier today. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to go after you're done with this one, go check that out. It's a quick episode, and he sings the praises of Nick Chubb, calling him the best closer even in baseball. So
love it.
yes, yeah. So he thinks they're
and
going to be doing. Ah, yes, yes, yes. So, so the next guy, the RB6, out in, in New Jersey. Oh, wait a second. Uh, Saquon Barkley going off as the RB6. He's going in that range, 18.4 right now. When you're looking at him, big season last year. He hasn't signed his franchise tag yet. My money is he's going to take his money and play for another contract. But you're looking at him. They did grab a running back late, but your comfort. Are you still comfortable grabbing him as your anchor?
I think so, because holdouts in the past haven't worked out very well for the running backs. I mean,
Unfortunately,
the it's just kind of how the NFL is right now, and it's not fair because the running backs do just as much work and have just as much value to a team, but the fact is they don't last as long in their careers as other positions, and so you can replace them a lot easier. And as unfair as it is, that's just the way of the world. So I think that he's going to end up signing his franchise tag. um, I can't see him holding out for more than a game or two, if he even does. And they don't really have a ton of pass catchers. I think that it's still going to be Daniel Jones dumping it down to Saquon. Saquon's a great pass blocker. He's a great explosive runner. And the only concern that I have with him is health. But last year he showed me. They were in a pretty tough division with some pretty tough competition. And if he can stay healthy through all of that, then I have faith in him as much as I do any running back.
yeah, and you mentioned the work in the passing game. They did not add a dynamic wide receiver one. Darren Waller is probably going to be the top target, and but yeah, Saquon, he's that safety valve, and he's probably going to get 50 to 55 receptions that way, and still be a force. Still get 275 to 300 rushing attempts. Yeah, it's hard to expect anybody else, and he is a great anchor, anchor running back, kind of like, mid to late second round at that point. If you went, yeah, mid to late second round, you're going with that Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, one of those guys. If you didn't get CMC, that's who's coming back to you in the second round. So now
Yeah, and
next one.
the Giants beat reporter today came out and said that it's possible that Paris Campbell leads the wide receiving room in targets. Like, come on. No, Saquon's definitely he's gonna have those targets if Paris Campbell is leading that wide receiver room.
Oh man. Well, I think Familia, who's out there, they know that you're a Cowboys fan, and so Tony Pollard, someone who is kind of like in the Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara, kind of that dual threat running back. The one thing that worries me about him is, he's never carried the ball 200 times. He carried a ball 193 times and had 39 targets. So, still a dynamic player, but they don't have that hammer to take some of the hard runs away from him. You're more plugged into the Cowboys than I am, but I'm going to be sitting down with the Cowboys writers in a few days. But can he hold up with a little bit more workload?
That's what actually worries me, especially coming off a fairly severe ankle injury.
Yeah.
Because ankle injuries it's not just like a ligament, it's a bone and a stability issue. And then depending on the break and then the muscle rehab, it can take a lot longer. What I think is going to happen is that they're going to re-sign Zeke. I really honestly think that they're going to. I don't think that Malik Davis is going to be the number 2 behind Pollard. And if they bring Zeke back in to carry some of that between the tackle, just kind of 1 yard workload, then I think Pollard will be fine. As of right now, he's one that's iffy to me. But I do like his PPR upside if he's healthy. I'm not taking him until I figure out if he's going to be at training camp or not.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, it's and you know what? I don't think I've drafted him too much because usually by the time, if I'm thinking about it, It seems like he's been getting drafted before me at the end of the second round. And at that point, sometimes I've been going elite quarterback and grabbing one of the studs. Yeah, I mean, it just I worry about guys. I don't know if he's going to be a 250 carry banger. I think 200 carries might be his limit, and that's kind of. But you want him to get the work in the passing game. I may still grab him at some point, but yeah, it's. I'm starting to feel a little worried about some of these guys being my anchor. I almost feel like I'd want to get somebody to come in, but yeah, and I want to see him healthy. So the next guy, we're going to RB8. We talk about unicorns. This guy's 20. Derrick Henry. He's 29 years old. He's going off as the RB8 around pick number 25. So early third round. 3 years with 300 plus carries. Comes off 1,500 yard season. I mean, I still want to buy in and be like, okay, he's got one more year in him. How do you feel about him as an anchor?
Yeah, I still love Derrick Henry. We all thought that he was going to have some regression last year after coming back off that Jones fracture, and he did not slow down a bit. He was still every bit that unicorn, that crazy pounder that he's always been. And as long as they stick with Tannehill, they're going to have to run the ball a ton. And as much as I love Treylon Burks, as evidenced by the ball, I think Derrick Henry is still going to be the actual anchor in this offense. So I'm very comfortable taking him there. I feel like you get a significant discount as opposed to years prior because of his age.
And another thing, weeks 15 and 17, who's he playing?
The Texans.
Write it down. Familia, write it down right now. 200 yards and 3 touchdowns both times. So
it's like it's some magician that's making this happen every time. This is some magician wrote this in stone, and you can't revoke it. It's witchcraft.
And you know what? Yeah, it's witchcraft that's got the fountain of youth. But you know what? When it comes, I mean, we're talking about a potential Hall of Fame running back here, and some of those guys, Emmitt Smith was still a 300 carry guy into his early 30s. Walter Payton, one of the greatest of all time. I think it was 31 or 32 years old when they won the Super Bowl, and he had a monster season that year. Barry Sanders, age of 30, had one of his greatest seasons. So there are guys that can continue to do it. Plus Derrick Henry, he delivers more contact, more punishment than he gets. I mean, he's yards after contact. He's always one of the best out there. So, and they revamped their offensive line. So worked it up a little bit. Again, NFL Insider Series, Tyler Rowland has a lot of knowledge about Derrick Henry on that one. So go back, Familia, go back and get, if you haven't already, check that one out. So our RB9 now we're talking. This is a guy, he's risen up a lot. I was getting him in the 30s. But he's gone up to pick number 26, Ramondre Stevenson. They didn't add a running back. They said goodbye to Damian Harris. I'm kind of high on him. Where do you feel when him this year?
I feel like the RB9 might be a little bit of a ceiling, but he also has a very high floor. So even if he drops off 1 or 2 positions by the end of the year, he's not going to fall off. Not with that workload. The only thing is if they bring in like a Dalvin Cook or somebody like that to compete with him. We know how Belichick loves to run running backs by committee. But at this point, I don't think if they did in the draft and it's already almost July, if they haven't brought anybody in yet, I don't think that they're going to. I think that Stevenson is their guy, and he is that dual threat. He can catch passes. He can punish people in the middle. And I kind of like him. I was a big Ramondre truther last year, and I got him at a huge discount. RB9, like I said, might be a little bit of a ceiling, but he won't fall much.
I've got a few teams where he's my anchor, and I grabbed him in the 3rd round. just because I went running back, or I went running. I mean, I'm sorry, receiver, or I went receiver, top three quarterback, and then came back to Ramondre, and just figured it out for the RB2. I think a lot of times I got Rashad White as the RB2 that way.
The dump offs for Rashad White are going to be crazy.
Oh my goodness, they're going to be nuts. They are going to be nuts. And Stevenson's still such a factor in the passing game, and it's
kind of that same situation with Mac Jones there. I mean, he's a low ADOT type quarterback, so the dump offs are still going to be a thing with him too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think he's going to be a really good player this year. I know there's some Jerome Ford. I'm sorry, Pierre Strong love coming out, and maybe steal some carries here and there. But I think Ramondre is going to get a healthy dose, and I think he's going to be a great player. Last one, I believe in standard. Josh Jacobs was the number one quarterback and number one running back, either number 2 or 3 if you went half PPR or PPR scoring, 2,000 yards. I'm a little worried about making him my anchor. Where do you stand on him?
Yep, that entire Raiders offense scares the bejesus out of me because we don't even know if they're going to have a quarterback. I mean, we still have no clarity on whether or not Jimmy G has passed his physical. And if he doesn't and he gets released, they've got no one, like literally no one behind him. And the people in the free agent pool for quarterbacks are not appetizing. I don't think that the Raiders did a lot to improve their offensive line either. Part of their starters, I think the stat escapes me, but combined, they've started a very, very minimal amount of games in their combined careers. And Derek Carr loved to dump the ball off to the running back. And I just don't see it happening again this season. He's one that I'm a little bit out on at ADP. If he falls maybe to RB like 14, I would take him. But RB 10 is still a little bit rich for me when there are people like Najee Harris out there.
Najee Harris, I think, is my most. Najee Harris and Ramondre Stevenson are probably my 2 most drafted running backs. I've had Najee as my anchor many times. So outside of the top 10, who are there any anchors that you're still looking for?
Yeah, so I really obviously like Najee. I think they improved that offensive line. They not only through the draft, but they brought in 3 free agents because they had so many problems on that offensive line last year. I also really like Jahmyr Gibbs because I think that the targets alone are going to vault him, especially in half PPR and PPR scoring. DeAndre Swift missed 3 games last season, and he still had 70 targets. Gibbs also is one of the most explosive runners. He had more rushes of 15-plus yards in the NCAA of anybody last season. And even if they do have plans for David Montgomery for like goal line work and things like that, Gibbs is going to be used in the passing game, especially until all of those wide receivers come back from suspension.
Yeah, I think and you know what? Even when they come back, I think he's going to be used a lot. I think he's going to be a great pickup this year. And that great offensive line. So many things to like about them. Their defense didn't take as much of a step forward, so I think they're going to be still in a fair number of shootouts. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. The ones you talk. Any other that you're looking for? I think we're starting to get a little feel a little uncomfortable. If we're in the anchor territory.
Yeah, anchor territory. I don't necessarily like much. After this, I think maybe Aaron Jones. I would like Kenneth Walker if it wasn't for the addition of Charbonnet. Yeah. If you've already got somebody else, then I'm fine taking Walker, especially in best ball situations because he is so explosive and can have spike weeks. But I don't know what that snap share is going to be. I don't want to take him as my RB1. J.K. Dobbins, they're talking about passing the ball a little bit more, and he showed some flashes at the end of last year. But we still don't know what that Ravens offense is going to look like. So past here, it gets pretty muddy. even with Dalvin Cook, you know, we don't know where he's going to land. If he goes with Miami, that is going to be a nightmare of a committee backfield. I don't care
Oh,
how good he is. They're going to rotate everybody, and the snap share is just not going to be there. So after that, it gets pretty murky, and that's where we get into the quote dead zone.
One guy that I'm a little intrigued about in this dead zone is Miles Sanders, because he doesn't have a lot of competition for carries, and he did get money. So you follow the money, and you always figure that one of the best friends of a quarterback, other than the tight end, is a good running game. So possible, but yeah, you're right. When you're talking about anchor territory, I'm 100% with you that Aaron Jones is probably the last guy that I'm feeling comfortable doing that strategy. Oh man, it's Britt, this has been awesome. This has been absolutely awesome. Again, where are people gonna find the draft kit with your great content on Anchor RB?
Yeah, so you can find it over at fantasyalarm.com. You can use the vanity URL, fantasyalarm.com/draft. It's $27. Or if you want to get in the know for everything on the entire site, you can sign up for our All Pro package. Use promo code NFL50 for 50% off your first 6 monthly payments. That gives you access to literally everything on the site, plus the draft guide, plus you get a free 7-day trial. So you can kind of take it for a spin and see if you like what's on the site before you commit to paying for it.
Oh man, NFL 50 Familia. Use that promo code. So, Britt, especially for first-time guests, I'm not going to let you out of here without a little Mexican food talk. Familia FFB. Nos gusta hablar de sabor latino. We like to talk about Latin flavor. Mexican food talk. What are your favorite tacos, and any favorite Mexican food that you have out there?
So I absolutely adore Mexican food. My pronunciation of it is not so good, so please, La Familia, do not make fun of my pronunciation.
I'll help you. Yo te ayudo.
So chilaquiles.
Oh my God.
And then birria tacos.
Oh my goodness, one of my favorites.
And then we had a dish at kind of a fusion restaurant, Oaxacan salmon, and then poblano mole.
Oh my God!
I love mole. Yeah, honestly, any Mexican food, I love it. Put it in front of my face, and I will devour it.
Have you when you've had mole, by any chance, have you ever had the opportunity to like homemade corn tortillas and to dip it into the mole?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that's just heaven on earth.
Yes, I had quite a few friends in the restaurant industry that did cookouts and made homemade corn tortillas, and there's nothing else like it. I don't care, and I can never replicate the recipe. They can give me the recipe; it's never the same.
I think there's something with like the tortilla press or something like that makes it a little extra special. Yeah, my mom, Mama Martin, she still occasionally, 81 years old, still occasionally makes corn tortillas, and it's a little bit different. They're a little bit fatter. Sometimes she'll just put a little butter on them, and it's just perfection, just perfection. Oh man, yeah. And I'll tell you, birria, homemade birria is, you don't need to add anything to it. It's already just perfectly seasoned. A little cilantro, a little onion.
Oh, a lot of cilantro. A lot of cilantro. The more cilantro, the better. I feel bad. My sister got the gene where cilantro tastes like soap, and I'm like, better you than me.
Oh, poor thing. Poor thing. I'm so sorry.
She hates it. But like I said, better her than me, because I love it.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of what you've done much chorizo or carnitas?
Yes. Yes. And then huevos rancheros in the morning. When you're hungover, nothing hit like huevos rancheros in college.
Huevos rancheros, if they got a little side of refried beans, it's just perfection. Just perfection. Oh man, this has been perfection, Britt. Yeah, this has been awesome. This has been awesome. This is not going to be a one and done. You're gonna keep getting invited. I've had so much fun with you. Please, you already promoted the kit. Anything else any other great stuff coming up?
Oh, yeah. So I kind of have a little laundry list, so bear with me.
Please feel free.
So we have started the Lightning Round Best Ball 3 Championship. The first year we raised $1,000 for charity. Last year we raised $2,000 for charity. So we're really trying to raise 3,000 this year. You can find the link to sign up pinned in my Twitter bio or Twitter profile at Britt_Flinn. Then next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I have another episode of Her Story in the Making. I'll be interviewing Shan Blunt, who is a producer for SiriusXM. We're kind of going behind the scenes with that. Like I mentioned, the draft guide. We also launched a new morning show on Better Sports Network at 8 a.m. Eastern called A Better Morning. That's Monday through Friday. You can find that on Better Sports Network. And just a little teaser, stay tuned because I might have something else in the works for a Monday through Friday show.
Familia. Oh, busy. I mean, this is supposed to be the dead period. This lady's busier than you wouldn't believe. Oh, it's phenomenal. I'm gonna say adios to some amigos who are let me see. Oh yeah, so Mr. Scampers, yes, he wants to say Fire Matt Canada. So I think this was when we were talking about Najee Harris, Miles Sanders or Cam Akers. We talked about Miles Sanders, Cam Akers, maybe not the anchor, but I wouldn't mind him as the RB2. Yes, and Mr. Scampers, yes. Are you having tuna for dinner? So, oh my
Having
goodness.
some ahi.
Oh, love it. Yeah. I think the Oaxacan salmon was we probably got him really hungry there. So
yes.
Oh, love it. Oh, Britt, this has been awesome. I'm gonna close up shop here. Familia. Also, one more time. We're on YouTube, we're on live on YouTube. Before you go, hit that subscribe button. Por favor, get in there, hit that like and subscribe button. Again, one more time, go to underdogfantasy.com. Use that promo code Familia23, Familia23 if you're doing it in Spanish. Hey, play best ball all the way to kickoff on that Thursday night in September. You can find me at Jorge Martin 17 on Twitter. I push out all my content there. Familia FFB on Instagram, Facebook, all those other places. Make sure you're going there. Lastly, I almost forgot. Go to Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also going to be putting this out there, audio format. If you missed a part of it, and if you don't want to watch it on YouTube, or you want to listen to it while you're doing walking your dog or doing the dishes, hey, we got you covered there too. So thank you to Spotify for podcasters for putting this out there. And lastly, FamiliaFFB.com. This has been awesome. Muchas gracias, everybody. And remember, todos somos familia. Salud.